You know, for as much as I enjoy Total Drama, even I can admit that it's starting to show its age. In my personal opinion, Total Drama Island was an experimental season with its own strengths and its own problems. I thought that action streamlined the show and corrected most of my problems with the first season, making it my favorite of the bunch, even if there was nothing particularly amazing about it. World Tour was similar in that regard, but also took up one too many gimmicks for its own good. While I liked the different locales, we've already seen something similar in action, and the songs can go die in a fire. Revenge of the Island I thought was at the same level as Season 1, if a bit more strange. All-Stars had an incredible first half and a pitiful second half, and Pahkitew Island was good, but didn't have enough time to be as good as it could be. They've been keeping up pretty well given the circumstances, but like many actual game shows, it's starting to dwindle and tries to be exciting by introducing new characters and new gimmicks without actually changing the format of the show. Now, what they've been doing isn't bad. After all, it gave us Sierra, Alejandro, Mike, Scott, Dawn, Jasmine, Topher, Scarlett, and that's just in terms of new characters. However, if the formula itself is aging, it may not be enough. So I'm actually very glad to see that the newest season will actually be a spin-off with a different formula, and thus we have the Ridonculous race, set to come out in summer of this year in the United States. This new spin-off promises to be very different from previous seasons. For one, rather than borrowing a template of Survivor, this one will be borrowing the template of The Amazing Race, with pairs of racers rather than just two teams, a new host, some new contestants, and probably a different means of progressing through challenges. This could be the creative boost that the show needs if it wants to progress the main series. However, if handled poorly, it could also bring about the end of the show, especially since it's been stated that there are no plans for new seasons beyond this one as of now. We'll just have to wait and see on that front. But in the meantime, let's talk about some of my hopes and worries for this new spin-off. Firstly, I feel it's important to address the new host, Dawn. I'm sure there are several fans who are aghast that Chris McLean has been allegedly replaced, but personally, I'm all for a new host. Or at least I would be if it weren't for Dawn's description. On October 1st of 2014, Fresh TV released a character description for Dawn. Among other things, it details him as the self-proclaimed most interesting man in the world, the adoration of women, highly athletic, in tune with his emotions, knowledgeable of trivia, and pretty much every other synonym for perfect human being. He seems sort of like an amalgamation of Chris McLean and Alejandro. I realize that's not fair to say, as all we have is a short description, but I'm afraid of him becoming one note. The description even states that Dawn's only weakness may be his obliviousness to other points of view, particularly when he doesn't realize the joke is on him. While I can see that leading to some humorous situations, I don't think it's enough. I realize that there's probably a lot of pressure on Fresh TV and Teletoon to make Dawn somewhat resemble Chris McLean to prevent too much fan backlash. However, I think that doing that defeats the purpose of a spin-off. Personally, I would much rather see Dawn turn out to be someone completely different from Chris and see how that new personality meshes with the show. Even if it doesn't work, I'd like to see the effort. Although it doesn't look like that's going to happen given the description I mentioned, but I still think measures should be taken to make Dawn distinguishable from Chris. One idea I've thought of is for Dawn to be new to game show hosting. Maybe he was successful in his earlier career endeavors, decided to try and host a game show, but then found out it required different skills that he had not yet developed. He could be trying to maintain his celebrity image while still trying to find footing in this new medium, even to the point of questioning his own skill. I think this could make for some funny moments of failure, as well as a sympathetic and interesting character, without abandoning what Fresh TV has already officially stated about him. Anyway, it's just an idea. But the host is one thing. What about the rest of the cast? While only 2 new characters aside from Dawn have been confirmed, we have been dropped hints that this season will feature both new and old characters. We might as well start with Devin and Carrie, the 2 new combatants that have been announced. For the most part, they look pretty ordinary. Childhood friends, but with Carrie keeping a secret from Devin. It's never explicitly said, but the artwork seems to suggest a one-way crush. Although if they went with psychic powers, I would not be disappointed. I don't know, there's really not a lot to go on here, although I do like that they're spreading out to new character templates. Carrie especially looks like no other character from the series thus far. What about some other new characters that have yet to be revealed? Well, this is just pure speculation at this point, but I think it might be interesting to have a pair of New Yorkers, or at least some sort of equivalent. A team that's loudmouthed and abrasive, but not necessarily evil. They don't do it to try to hurt other teams' feelings or anything, that's just how they talk. And they could potentially provide a nice subversion from the stereotype, kind of like Harold and Gwen. Also, while less likely, I could think of a lot of possibilities with a team that's completely devoid of emotion and humor. Aside from Dave, hardly anyone ever plays the straight man in Total Drama, and I think it would be interesting to see what Fresh TV could do with two characters so strongly contrasting with the norm. As for returning players, there's no way of telling how many there will be, but regardless, there are a few pairs I can think of that would fit right in. Katie and Sadie, for example, seem perfect for this setup, and it wouldn't hurt to give two less repeated characters more screen time. The same pretty much goes for Amy and Samey. Sierra and Cody would also fit into this, but they're probably not as likely to get in considering they had pretty much an entire season already dedicated to their relationship. Aside from that, there aren't many other concrete couples to work with. There's romantic couples and friends, sure, but nothing that sticks out as obviously belonging here, at least in my mind. What I'm really most concerned about with the new characters is that they'll become too segmented. I really hope that the people behind the spin-off allow the teams to interact with each other rather than leave them on their own. This might be more difficult considering the new format, but I really hope that they take advantage of their 26 episodes and make them as well developed and interrelated as the original ones. The only other thing I've noticed could be a potential problem with this season is its concept. It's based on The Amazing Race, which itself isn't bad. I love The Amazing Race. But I and a lot of others see this potentially becoming a rehash of Total Drama World Tour. And while I doubt the singing will return, God help me if the singing returns, it does seem very similar in design. Hopefully the staff realized this well ahead of me and are doing their best to avoid this. I have faith in them, it's just something that needs addressing. And besides, there are still plenty of locations they could go to like Russia, India, the Galapagos Islands, Mexico, Spain, Italy, Ireland, Scotland, South Africa, etc., etc., etc. That's not to say they're forbidden from revisiting the same locations as in World Tour, but they need to at least have a different approach to them, otherwise it will be buried by fans as a ripoff of said season. All in all, while I'm excited to see what things this season will bring about, I am also worried due to the weight it holds. Depending on how fans react, this spin-off could make or break the possibility for future seasons, and I hope that the creators are taking care to make the best of this. I realize what I say here will probably not affect anything, considering that they're already well into development, but these are just the words of a fan who wants to see the show reach its full potential. I'm trusting you, Fresh TV. Don't make me regret it. And while we're at it, I'll ask you some of your opinions. What do you think about the new host? What characters, new or old, would you be interested in seeing this season? What do you want to see in the Ridonculous race? Be sure to let me know in the comments. I'm the Phoenix King, and until next time, take care of yourselves.
Survive.